I never thought I'd be the one picking up shards of a family I barely knew, but here I am, 31, staring down a betrayal that cuts deeper than I'd imagined. I'm Mia Carter, a freelance photographer scratching out a living in Portland's misty sprawl. My life used to feel like a soft focus lens, blurry but warm, filled with late-night edits and Sundays at Grandpa Henry's Victorian house in East Portland. He was my rock, a wiry 80-year-old with a white beard and a gravelly laugh, always tinkering with his old camera or brewing coffee that smelled like home. That house wasn't just brick and beams. It was his heart, our story. Every nick in the stairs, a snapshot of us. Then, lung disease snatched him 9 months ago, and I thought the pain had peaked. I couldn't have been more wrong. The will reading came a week after his funeral, set in a cluttered lawyer's office downtown, all dusty files and stale air. I perched on a wobbly chair, still hollowed out, my fingers fidgeting with a lens cap as Uncle Ron and Uncle Tim loomed nearby. Ron's 57, lean and slick, a car salesman with gelled hair and a shark's grin. Tim's 54, stockier, with a buzz cut and a habit of grunting like he's annoyed at the world. They're Dad's brothers, Grandpa's sons, and growing up, they were ghosts, showing up for Christmas with cheap whiskey and half-hearted hugs. I figured they'd breeze through, mutter condolences, and let me mourn. Instead, they lit a fuse. Ms. Patel, Grandpa's lawyer, a stern 50-something in a gray blazer, adjusted her glasses. "Henry left the house to Mia," she said, flipping through papers. "Sole beneficiary, signed last spring." My chest lifted. Gratitude, love, a tether to him. I saw his porch, the sagging wicker chairs, and felt his calloused hand on mine. Ron interrupted, voice oily. "Hold up." He slapped a new document down, his Rolex glinting. Dad sold it before he went, $500,000 to a contractor, split 3 ways. Tim grunted, nodding. He knew me'd manage without it. The words hit like a shutter snap, fast, jarring. "What?" I rasped, lens cap digging into my palm. "That's a lie. He told me." Ron smirked, crossing his arms. "Talk's cheap, kid. Deal's done. Cash split." Ms. Patel squinted at the page. "This overrides it. Dated 10 days before his death." I glared at the signature. Grandpa's, but shaky, off. Not his bold H I'd framed in photos. My gut churned, anger flaring. "He was on oxygen then," I said, voice quaking. "He couldn't sign that." Tim snorted, smug. "He wanted us set, Mia." I shoved the chair back, its screech echoing, my eyes stinging hot. "You faked it. You sold his house." Ron chuckled, cold. "Prove it, sweetheart. Money's banked." Ms. Patel shifted, mumbling, "It's legal," but her eyes dodged mine. I snatched my bag, storming out, their low laughs chasing me. Outside, Portland's fog swallowed me, matching the storm inside, grief warped with rage. Grandpa's house, my haven, traded off by his own sons. My uncles. My blood. I dialed my best friend, Alex, a wiry coder with shaggy red hair, as I slumped in my car. He picked up, voice sharp. "Mia? You good?" I choked. "They sold it. Grandpa's house. Gone. They rigged the will." He swore fierce. "Those snakes! What's next?" I swiped at tears, fog smearing the windshield. "They think I'll quit. They don't know me, or him." Alex paused, then smirked through the line. "That's it, Mia. Dig. Grandpa was sharp. He'd have left you a way out." That forged will wasn't just a slap. It was a gut punch that left me reeling. I rolled out of that lawyer's office, my haven, Grandpa's legacy, chest tight, hands trembling on my bag strap. Ron and Tim trailed me to the hall, Ron's loafers clicking smugly, Tim lumbering behind like a shadow. "Mia, wait up!" Ron called, voice slick as oil. I spun around, facing them, my throat raw. "Wait for what? You to explain why you stole his house?" Ron flinched, adjusting his tie, faint scars from Grandpa's old garage still on his knuckles. Tim stood by the door, arms crossed, buzz cut glinting under the fluorescence, his grunt a lazy shield. "It's not stealing," Ron started. But I cut him off, voice sharp. Don't. I saw that signature. It's not his. He sighed, heavy, and dropped the axe. You don't get it, Mia. The house, the upkeep. It's too much for you. Dad sold it so we'd all cash out. My stomach burned, a hollow fire roaring. I saved him from that fire, I said, slow, every word a weight. Stayed with him through every cough, and you sold him out? Ron looked away, jaw tight. He didn't want you stuck. Tim and I, we needed it more. Tim piped up, gruff. It's fair. Stop whining. The days after blurred into a haze. Ron wired me a measly $166,000 that night, my share, and moved into a condo downtown, Tim tagging along with a new truck, their cut already spent. I'd sit in my car outside the Victorian, watching its dark windows, my legs itching to climb those stairs again. Ms. Patel called once, voice clipped. Funds are dispersed. Sales final next week. Click. No sorry, no fight, just gone. Ron texted, smug. Let it go, kid. I deleted it, the sting of their betrayal sinking deeper. Portland's fog turned suffocating, thick, gray, pressing me down. Neighbors waved from their stoops, curious glances when I drove by the house, but no one asked. I'd lie awake in my tiny apartment, couldn't face my bed, listening to the hum of the fridge, feeling like a stranger in my own frame. One night, parked near Grandpa's old lot, I broke. Tears came fast, soaking my shirt, my whole body shaking. Not for the money, that was ash, but for the man who'd raised me, the home they'd gutted, snatched when I was still grieving. By morning, I knew I couldn't let it stand, couldn't let them erase him. I called Alex that dawn, his voice groggy but sharp. Mia, what's up? I gripped the phone, fog lifting outside. They faked it, I'm sure. That signature's off. I need you. He laughed, short. On it. Meet me at yours. An hour later, he showed up at my place. Red hair wild, laptop under his arm, a bag of donuts in hand. They're trash, Mia, he said, tossing me a glazed one. But we'll trash 'em back. Plan? I bit in, sugar sparking me awake, and said, That will's a lie. Grandpa wouldn't sell. Alex grinned, cracking his neck. Then we prove it. He was cagey. He'd have covered you. That afternoon, in my cramped living room, I pulled up Ron's text, a blurry will scan he'd sent to prove it. I zoomed in, my photographer's eye picking it apart. Grandpa's H wobbly, not his steady curve I'd shot on old prints. This isn't him, I muttered, pulse jumping. Alex nodded, digging through a box of Grandpa's papers I'd kept. Receipts, notes, a deed from '98 with his real mark. Bingo, he said, holding it up. Compare these, and they're screwed. My hands steadied, a thread of hope weaving in. They thought I'd fold, bank their cash, and fade. They didn't know Grandpa, or me. This was just the shutter click. I'd developed the whole damn picture. Portland's drizzle felt like a shroud after that will reading, but it couldn't drown the fire sparking in me. That first night alone in my cramped apartment, a shoebox above a noodle shop, all peeling paint and flickering lights. I sat by the window, watching rain streak the glass. My legs ached to pace, but I stayed put. The betrayal of Ron and Tim, a weight I couldn't shake. Grandpa's house was more than walls. It was him, and they'd sold it like junk. So I did what I knew. I focused the lens. It started with a hunch. I pulled up Ron's blurry will scan on my laptop, the screen's glow harsh in the dark. I zoomed in tight, my photographer's eye dissecting every curve. Grandpa's H, shaky, slanted wrong, not the proud swoop I'd captured on old Polaroids. I grabbed a birthday card from last year, his firm, looping script, and laid them side by side. The mismatch hit me like a flash. Fake. My pulse jumped, a thrill cutting through the fog. Gotcha, I whispered, snapping a shot of both. Alex crashed in next morning, donuts traded for coffee, and peered over. That's not even close, he said, red hair flopping. What else you got? We raided Grandpa's box, papers I'd hauled from his desk, yellowed and worn. Alex flipped through, landing on a deed from '98, Grandpa's signature bold as ever. Compare this, he said, tossing it over. I lined it up. 3 marks now, 2 real, 1 a lie. My hands shook, hope blooming. He didn't sign that sale, I said, voice steadying. Alex grinned, sharp. Then we find the truth. He'd have your back. I nodded, digging deeper, and spotted a photo frame in the pile. Me and him on the porch, his white beard glinting. I pried it open, and there it was, a folded note in his spidery scrawl. Mia keeps the house. Don't trust Ron and Tim. My throat tightened, love and fury tangling. He'd known. Instagram became my megaphone. Family can cut deep, stealing what's yours, I posted, attaching a faded shot of me and Grandpa by his roses. It took off, 30 likes, then 100, comments rolling in. That's low. Fight it. I kept it vague but hot, adding, some legacies get snatched, more soon. Locals bit. Portland's tight-knit vibe kicked in, followers guessing inheritance grab? I pictured Ron scrolling, his gelled hair stiffening, and smirked. Alex watched the stats climb. You're stirring it, Mia. Good. Now we need the kill. That night, I drove to the Victorian, sold but not raised yet. My spare key still good. The house loomed dark, roses drooping, and my chest ached as I wheeled a stool to the den. Couldn't climb stairs anymore. Under a shelf, I found it. A small metal box. Combo his enlistment date, 03-20-62. Inside, a second will, clean, naming me sole heir. And a letter. Mia, my shadow. Hold this tight. They'll grab what they can. Don't bend. Nah, tears stung, but I laughed, fierce. You old fox, I muttered, tucking it safe. He'd seen their greed coming a mile off. Alex called next day, voice buzzing. Signature's a slam dunk. Anything else? I sent him the will pic. This, and a warning from him. He whooped through the line. That's your ace. Nail 'em. I spent hours prepping, scanning the will, framing the note beside the deed, my camera catching every angle. Instagram hummed. 200 likes now, strangers rooting. Expose them! I dropped another hint. Truth's sharper than greed. Watch this space. Ron and Tim thought they'd outrun me, banked their cash, and laughed. They didn't see the shutter closing. The sting didn't fade, though. I'd catch my reflection in the laptop screen. Brown hair pulled back, gray eyes harder now. And see the girl they dismissed, the one Grandpa raised to frame the shot. This wasn't just a house. It was us, and I'd claw it back. The sale wasn't final. Ms. Patel's next week loomed, and I had my proof. Alex leaned back, coffee cold. They're sloppy, Mia. One push, they fall. I nodded. A quiet burn growing. Ron and Tim were ghosts now. Rumors of them flaunting new toys. But ghosts rattle chains, and mine were about to clang loud. It was a stormy Tuesday morning in a stark Portland office, and I walked in like I'd framed this shot 100 times. The rain lashed the windows, a gray blur matching my nerves, but my hands were steady, clutching a folder thick with proof. Alex flanked me, his red hair damp, laptop slung under his arm like a weapon. Ron and Tim sat across a scratched wooden table, smug as ever. Ron in a shiny blazer, Tim in a polo stretched tight, sipping coffee like they'd already cashed Grandpa's soul. Ms. Patel hovered, her gray blazer crisp, while the contractor, a wiry guy named Vince in a cheap tie, chewed a pen. They thought they'd locked it, $500,000 split and spent. They didn't see the exposure coming. Ms. Patel kicked off, voice flat. We're finalizing the sale today, funds per the updated will. Ron grinned, leaning back. All set, Mia? Tim grunted, smirking. Time to move on, huh? My gut twisted. Their cockiness a spark to my fuse, but I kept it cool, nodding at Alex. He opened the laptop, calm as stone. Not yet, I said, voice firm. There's a real will, and you're liars. I started with the box's will, slapping it on the table. Grandpa's neat scrawl. Mia Carter, sole heir to my house. The room froze, coffee cups stalling. Ron scoffed, loud. That's garbage! I slid the note next, his words blazing. Mia keeps the house. Don't trust Ron and Tim. Tim's buzz cut bristled, his jaw slack. Where'd you dig that up? I leaned in, sharp. His den, where he outsmarted you, Ms. Patel blinked. This isn't. But I cut her off with the signatures. The fake will's wobble next to Grandpa's steady deed and card. He was dying. You forged it. The voicemail was my shutter snap. Ron's voice from a bar last week, slurred and smug. Outplayed her good, huh? Tim's laugh rumbled. She's got nothing. Vince's pen snapped, his face souring. What the hell's this? He barked, chair scraping. I cranked the volume, letting it echo. Smile, uncles, I said, voice ice. You pawned what wasn't yours. Ron lunged up, gelled hair bouncing. Turn that off, you sneaky. But I held firm, grinning. Too late. Vince grabbed his briefcase, growling. I'm done. Sales off if this stinks. Ms. Patel snatched her phone, muttering, I need to verify. But the cracks were splitting wide. Tim pointed, red-faced. You've got squat. That house is sold. I laughed, low and hard. Not anymore. Grandpa's will stands. Yours flops. Alex chimed in, cool. Filed with a judge yesterday. Sales blocked. Ron roared, We spent it. I shrugged, cold. Pay it back. Court says so. Vince bolted, cursing, and Miss Patel trailed, leaving Ron and Tim gaping, coffee cold. Alex texted under the table. They're toast, Mia! And I exhaled, relief slamming in, bright, fierce, Grandpa's wink in my bones. They didn't stop, called after me in the lot, pleading as rain soaked their shirts. Just keep the cash, Tim yelled, desperate. I slammed my car door, told Alex, drive. Back home, my phone lit up. Texts, voicemails. You're ruining us. I blocked them, hands solid, and posted on Instagram. Some shots exposed the truth. Maya unbroken. It blew up, retweets, cheers, strangers clapping back at the ghosts I'd burned. I sank into my couch, rain drumming outside, and felt the frame shift. They'd tried to erase me. Grandpa's backup flipped the lens. Cutting Ron and Tim loose felt like unloading a busted tripod. Shaky, heavy, gone. I was 31 now, and my life was miles from that forged will's shadow. The Victorian in East Portland stood mine again, its creaky stairs and warped windows, a frame I'd fought for. The city's fog curling around it like a quiet wind. I'd roll out to the porch some nights, rain tapping the roof, and just sit. No uncles scheming, no lies ringing. Just me, my lens, and a world I'd reclaimed from their mess. Instagram buzzed, my post hit 600 likes, locals cheering got 'em, and my bank account stayed lean, but the house was gold enough. I'd pinch myself, half expecting to wake up in that lawyer's office, but the roses said it. This was real. The scars didn't blur, though. I'd catch my reflection in the den's old mirror, brown hair tied back, gray eyes tougher now, and see the girl they'd laughed off, the one Grandpa raised to shoot straight. My phone pinged nonstop, followers tagging me, thanking me for snatched my unbroken, saying it steadied their own shots. One stuck, a kid named Riley, 22, who'd lost a dad to family greed. Your fight kept me going, he wrote. I typed back, you're sharper than they know, throat tight. It wasn't just my frame anymore. Every post, every snap was a light for someone else. I'd gone from a ghost to a focus, and damn, people saw me. Ron and Tim? Whispers trickled in. Ron hawking cars at a discount lot. Tim towing junkers, both holed up in a cheap duplex, their $500,000 dream gutted. They'd quit texting after the court hit them with a $550,000 tab. Sale voided. Their shady cuts clawed back. I'd spot their names in spam calls. Mia, we're sorry. And hit block without a blink. Guilt nudged me once, late when the rain roared. But then I'd hear Ron's outplayed her and Tim's stop whining, and it vanished. They'd picked their angle. I wasn't reframing it. Alex called one day, voice crackling. You're viral, Mia. Mia, unbrokens everywhere after that truth post. I laughed, pulling up Instagram. Hundreds of likes, comments like hero and they had it coming. A woman named Jess wrote, "My brother sold our mom's place too. You're my push." I replied, "Shoot your shot, Jess. You've got this." The web wasn't just noise. It was a mirror showing me what I'd built from their scam. Alex grinned when we met at his cafe haunt. "You're unstoppable," he said, sliding me a latte. "Snapped this from nothing. Proud." I smirked. "Couldn't without your Zoom." He was real. No agendas, just a friend who saw me, lens and all. The real payoff hit at a gig last month. A Portland gallery, 50 seats, packed tight. I stood up front, projector hot, and showed it all. The fake will, the fight, the win. I didn't need their trust. I had his, I said, voice solid. The crowd clapped, hands loud as thunder. After, a guy came up, mid-20s, quiet, with a scar. "I'm Ben," he said, holding my card. "Family took my dad's shop. You lit my fire." I handed him a print, to Ben, unbroken, and watched him leave, step firmer. My chest burned, warm and full. Every frame I shared, every room I lit, was a shove to their greed and a lift for someone else. So here I am, 31, richer in ways Ron never clicked, respected by strangers who feel like kin. I don't check on them, don't need to. I've got my camera, my voice, a house that's mine alone. The best part? I proved I didn't need them. I turned their blur into my sharpest shot, and every day I wake up knowing I'm enough. That girl they burned? She's a light now, and she's not fading.